Live from New Delhi, you're watching the India NewsHour, India's voice to the world with me, Deepika, coming up in the next 1 hour. Cyprus President receives Prime Minister Narendra Modi with warmth and excitement. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says visit will add significance to India-Cyprus relations. Israel and Iran bombard each other as conflict rages. Iran says ready for talks. Trump says conflict can easily end. And Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau continues recovery and investigation work at the site. DNA tests confirm identities of over 60 victims. A very good evening to all the viewers joining us at this evening broadcast. Now let's get you all the latest news and updates on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Cyprus visit straight from Ground Zero. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Cyprus on Sunday for a two-day visit, during which he will hold talks with President Nikos Christodoulidis to strengthen bilateral ties. As a special gesture reflecting deep-rooted historic ties, President Christodoulidis and Foreign Affairs Minister received Prime Minister Narendra Modi on his arrival at the airport. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also address the business leaders at Limassol. Well, this is the first visit of an Indian Prime Minister to Cyprus in over 2 decades. From Cyprus, Prime Minister Modi will head to Canada to participate in the G7 summit at the invitation of Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was greeted with an electrifying reception by the Indian diaspora at his hotel in Limassol, Cyprus, during his historic visit to the island nation, which is the first by an Indian Prime Minister in over 2 decades. The air resonated with fervent chants of Bharat Mata Ki Jai and Modi, Modi, as members of the diaspora waved tricolour flags and expressed their pride and excitement. Indian diaspora in Cyprus welcomed Prime Minister Narendra Modi with great enthusiasm, expressing their pride and excitement. Chanting slogans and waving the tricolour, community members called this visit a symbol of growing global recognition of India's leadership. Many hailed it as a moment of connection and inspiration for Indians living abroad.
It is a proud moment for us that Prime Minister Modi has visited Cyprus, and we are really thankful for him. Today was most auspicious day. It is like a festival for us that Mr. Modi has come here. It was a long, very long wish to see him in person, to meet him, and that wish has been fulfilled today.
It's a great opportunity for all of us who are staying here in Cyprus. Cyprus and India has a very good relation from long time, and he is here. We are great to witness him.
It was a great opportunity for us. It was once in a lifetime opportunity that Mr. Narendra Modi, he has come here and he has met us, and we are really honored by his presence here. We've been waiting for this for a long time, but he took out time to meet his own people. That is really commendable.
This is a phenomenal opportunity for both Cyprus and India to co-create digital democracy together and make sure that sustainability stays at the core of this partnership. We are very proud to have Prime Minister Modi to come here to Cyprus and open up new doors for Indian companies and Cypriot companies to go to India.
This opportunity was the biggest opportunity I ever had to see him in front of my own eyes. He asked me questions, he put his hand over my head. It was the biggest opportunity I ever had in my whole life.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the eastern Mediterranean island of Cyprus on Sunday, which is the first by an Indian Prime Minister in 23 years. Diplomatic ties between India and Cyprus were established in the year 1962, and since then, the relations have evolved into economic, defence and cultural cooperation. Here's a report that tells you more. Take a look.
This is the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister to Cyprus in more than 20 years. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's historic visit will further strengthen the ties between the two countries, as well as India's engagement with the Mediterranean and the European Union. Cyprus is set to assume the rotating presidency of the EU Council in 2026. India and Cyprus have enjoyed excellent bilateral relations, which are based on friendship, mutual respect, and close cooperation, particularly in the context of international organizations. Diplomatic ties between India and Cyprus were established in 1962. Since then, the relations have evolved into economic, defense, and cultural cooperation. The bilateral trade between the two countries stood at $137 million in 2023-24. Major exports from India include organic chemicals, pharmaceuticals, iron, and steel, while major exports from Cyprus include ships, aluminium, and copper. Cyprus is among India's top 10 investors with an FDI of about $13.45 billion. An initiative is also underway to connect Indian and Cypriot startup communities. Cyprus has consistently supported India on critical matters, including India's candidacy for a permanent UN Security Council seat, the India-US Civil Nuclear Agreement, Nuclear Suppliers Group or NSG membership. India has backed Cyprus's sovereignty and territorial integrity, particularly on the Cyprus issue, advocating for a resolution through UN Security Council resolutions and international law. India maintains a defense attaché to Cyprus based in Cairo. An MOU on defense cooperation was signed in December 2022. A bilateral defense cooperation program was set up in Nicosia in January 2025. Notably, a Cypriot defense delegation participated in Aero India 2025. India and Cyprus also share vibrant cultural ties. A bust of Mahatma Gandhi stands near Cyprus Parliament, and a road in Delhi is named after Archbishop Makarios. The visit underscores Prime Minister Modi's growing stature as a global leader, reflecting the extensive international engagements and his role in enhancing India's image and influence on the world stage. Bureau Report, DD India.
And to give you a rounded perspective on this, I'm joined by Mr. Ashok Sajjanar, who is the former senior diplomat. Good evening, Mr. Sajjanar. Now, the kind of welcome we first saw Prime Minister Narendra Modi receiving at Cyprus by the President and by the Indian diaspora as well speaks volume about India-Cyprus more than 6 decades old bilateral relationship, isn't it?
That's right, Deepika. Thank you very much for having me on the show. You're right. This is a very strong relationship. Although, Cyprus is a small country, just about 9,000 square kilometers, just about a little less than 1 million population. But still, it's a very important member because it can really prove to be the gateway to Europe and to the European Union. And in that context, I think whether it is the bilateral relations or regional relations, because Cyprus is an island which is it's in the Mediterranean, just south of Turkey. Turkey is a large landmass that looms over it, and we know what the attitude of Turkey has been in recent years, particularly during the Pahalgam attack and thereafter. So whether it is in terms of trade, it is in terms of investment, it's in terms of people-to-people contact, because we've seen the diaspora there is not very large because, since the population is small, the diaspora is just about 11,000-12,000 people. But it's a very prosperous country. The per capita GDP of people in Cyprus is more than $60,000. So it is a very right time that Prime Minister Modi has gone there. We have been focusing very much on Europe. We saw the External Affairs Minister was also recently in Belgium. He met the European Union leadership. He was in France, met the leadership there. So there is a very strong focus on Europe and European Union, and Prime Minister's visit will take that engagement even further.
And talking about on the sidelines of its economic aspect, an Indian Prime Minister visiting Cyprus, which is a very important link between India and the other countries, and especially the European Union when we talk about it, and considering the fact that Cyprus will be taking the European Union presidency early in the year of 2026. How much of a boost is this for India economically?
I think it's going to be a very significant contribution that Cyprus can make, because we see, as you mentioned very correctly, Cyprus takes over as the rotating presidency of the Council of the European Union on 1st of January. And so to take the partnership forward, not only at the bilateral level, but even at India-EU level, it will play a very important role. We know that the European Union is also very keen to strengthen and expand and deepen partnership with India. Just a few months ago in February, we had the visit of President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and she was accompanied by about 21, 22 of her commissioners. That means her whole cabinet of the European Union had visited India. This is quite unprecedented. It has never been done with any other country. So this speaks volumes of the interest of Europe to engage with India. India is a large economy, fourth largest economy in the world, fastest growing major economy in the world. So I think there is this partnership is a win-win partnership, and we agreed recently that during the visit of President Ursula von der Leyen, that the free trade agreement that has been going on, that has been under negotiations since 2007, of course, from 2013 till about 2018, there was an interregnum, nothing really happened. But now both the sides have decided that we'll conclude it by the end of this year. And both sides are working very fervently to achieve that target. And in the implementation of that India-EU FTA, Cyprus will play a very important, very significant role early next year when it takes over the presidency.
And not only this, India has also been supporting Cyprus since long back. We've seen both of them exchanging a very healthy relationship diplomatically as well. How do you see that in line of global context and in the light and shade of global context? Because India's relationship with different countries has always been the talking point when Prime Minister Narendra Modi makes his visit to any of the nation.
You're right. I think Prime Minister Modi, in terms of the personal connect and the personal chemistry, Deepika, that he's able to establish not only with the Indian diaspora in those countries, but also with the political leadership. So you would, that was on full display today when we saw the Prime Minister's aircraft landing in at the Larnaca airport. and we saw the president himself present there in person, the foreign minister present there to welcome Prime Minister Modi, and I'm sure people would have noticed that both the leaders were holding hands, and the Cypriot president was escorting, and even when Prime Minister Modi was shaking hands with the those who had collected at the airport to receive him, both these leaders were clasping each other's hands. So I think this speaks for the very strong personal bond. But in addition to this visit, Deepika, which takes place after 23 years, but the interaction between leadership of the two countries has been strong at different capitals, on the sidelines of the different international meetings. We had, of course, bilateral visit. We had the visit of the Cypriot president to India in 2017. We had our then president visiting, Mr. Ramnath Kovindji, visiting Cyprus in 2019. And the Prime Minister has met the president of Cyprus on the sidelines of the UNGA, on the sidelines of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meetings. So there is a very strong personal connect, and I'm sure that will serve as the basis for building the relation on trade, on investment, on technology, on startups, and of course on culture and people-to-people contact.
And also talking on diplomatic lines now, India chose Cyprus for Prime Minister Modi's first visit after Pahalgam terror attack. What sort of a message it sends to the world?
I think the discussions that Prime Minister Modi is going to have with his interlocutors, whether it is in Cyprus or it is in G7 in Alberta, Canada, or on his way back when he stops over in Croatia, I think counter-terrorism is going to be a very important focus. The second part is going to be how to stop wars and stop conflicts, because we've seen wars start, but stopping them and getting them to an end, that has proved to be challenged, whether it's Russia-Ukraine conflict or it is Israel-Hamas conflict, and now Israel-Iran also. And the worst sufferers in such cases are developing countries. He is definitely going to articulate the concerns and the aspirations of the global south as to how all these wars create a problem in terms of increasing debt, increasing the prices and availability of fossil energy, whether it is oil or gas. It results in disruption of supply chains, and the developing countries are the worst to suffer as a result of these uncertainties. And there's been huge uncertainty in the area of trade, in the area of tariffs in recent months, and that is not helpful for developing countries. India has been able to deal with it quite effectively so far, but we need certainty, we need predictability, we need peace, stability and security in the world, and Prime Minister Modi will definitely speak about these.
For the benefit of our viewers, can you also tell us about the major sectors where we can see prosperity on both the sides when we talk about India and Cyprus's growing relations?
I think India has many strengths, Deepika, as we are aware, whether it is pharmaceuticals, whether it is digital payment infrastructure, whether it is fintech, these healthcare, education, agriculture, these are startups. These are all areas in which India has made tremendous strides, and it will be happy to share its expertise, its information, and its experience with Cyprus and with the other countries and other leaders that he meets either in Canada or on his way back.
And not only this, the Indian community has also lauded Prime Minister Narendra Modi's push to, globalize and make yoga the global soft power of India, reaching across the boundaries, going beyond the boundaries. How do you see this particular push of Prime Minister Narendra Modi towards yoga, making India's soft and very strong power?
No, absolutely. I think the celebration of the International Day of Yoga, which falls on 21st June, so just another week from now, less than a week from now, I think this has really taken the world by storm. I don't think anyone could have expected that it would have such an enormous success. But I think that is what the Prime Minister does. He thinks out of the box. When this proposal was made in 2014 to the United Nations General Assembly in his speech, I don't think anyone expected that 177 out of the 193 countries which are members of the United Nations will co-sponsor the resolution to have an International Day of Yoga. And now, of course, yoga is marked and celebrated, and big congregations in yoga, of yoga practices and postures, asanas, are held all over the world on the 21st of January and 21st of June. And people realize, people know that it is not only has physical benefits, but also spiritual and mental health benefits. So it has become very popular. So I think India is growing as a hard power country, but also it's a soft power in terms of sharing its experience, expertise, whether it is in yoga or it is in Ayurveda or it is in terms of its films and culture and dance and music. I think that makes further enhances the attractiveness of India as an emerging global power.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ashok Sajanhar, for joining us and bringing us a rounded perspective on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Cyprus. We are heading for a short break, but still to come on the other side. Up next, we'll get you details on how the country is gearing up for International Day of Yoga 2025. French President Emmanuel Macron criticizes President Donald Trump for his threats to take over Greenland.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India NewsHour with me, Deepika. Well, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi visits Cyprus, DD India's Shubhendu Ghosh spoke to the Indian High Commissioner to Cyprus, who highlighted the deepening ties and growing cooperation between the two nations. Take a listen.
I have with me Indian High Commissioner to Cyprus, Mr. Manish. Welcome to DD India, sir. If you talk in terms of particular areas that may be in focus, particularly in terms of economy, energy and connectivity, what can be expected?
Each national leaders of both countries are trying to see how they can use the good feeling, friendship amongst ourselves to work together to achieve their own national goals of development to the people, prosperity to the people, and each country has its own unique strength. So Cyprus is also geographically very well placed, and I believe that are Indian companies who are now looking to expand outwards, and Cyprus would be a good position for them to come and expand their operation in European Union and Middle East and North Africa region. It is a global economy, so there is no winner or no loser. It is a cyclical this thing. So I think Indian companies coming here and expanding will bring revenues to our country, because a lot of Indians are living here. They are sending back money, repatriation. So it is kind of a globe circular thing. So I believe that trade, tourism, technology, startup, innovation, energy sector, these are some of the potential areas.
And finally, the point that you mentioned about Cyprus being like a gateway to Europe, we understand that in 2026, Cyprus is also going to be the president of the Council of European Union. In that sense, India's greater outreach to Europe, in that context, Prime Minister's visit becomes crucial, would you say?
I think so. I think Cyprus has always been supporting us in the framework of India-EU engagement. And as you said, Cyprus will take the presidency of EU on 1st January next year for 6 months. If the FTA is concluded, I think it will start getting implemented in Cyprus presidency. So that is a good thing considering our relationship.
Thank you very much for speaking with DD India. With camera person Yogesh, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in Cyprus.
Athena, the director of Japa Ayurveda and Yoga Retreat, has expressed excitement over Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Cyprus. She said that they feel motivated and encouraged whenever Prime Minister Narendra Modi talks about Ayurveda and yoga.
जापा आयुर्वेदा एक संस्था है जो कि योगा और आयुर्वेदा से हम उसको रन करते हैं साइप्रस में. इसमें हम लोगों को सिखाते हैं कि नेचुरल रेमेडीज से, जड़ी बूटियों से हम लोगों को कैसे क्योर कर सकते हैं. यूरोप में इसकी आज के समय में बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है और हम खुश हैं कि हम हिंदुस्तान की जो इतनी हेरिटेज चीज़ें हैं, आयुर्वेदा की स्टडी और योगा की स्टडी, उसको हम यूरोप में लाके, साइप्रस में लाके उसकी नॉलेज और पूरे यूरोप में बहुत इजीली एक्सेसिबल कर रहे हैं. इस तरह से प्राइम मिनिस्टर जी ने पूरी दुनिया में योगा को प्रमोट किया है. हमें बहुत उससे प्रोत्साहन मिलता है, इंकरेजमेंट मिलता है कि हम योगा को और आगे लेके जाएं, आयुर्वेदा को और आगे लेके जाएं.
Let's now tell you a brief overview of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's engagement in Cyprus. Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Randir Jaiswal tells us about the engagements of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Cyprus.
Honorable Shri Narendra Modi has arrived in Cyprus. This is his first visit to this beautiful country. Our ties with Cyprus is historic, warm and enduring. Today, on arrival at the airport, he was received by the President of Cyprus. This is reflective of how strong, how deep our ties are. This was a special gesture from the Cyprus side. Little later from now, Prime Minister and the President of Cyprus, they will address a business roundtable where ideas about how to strengthen India-Cyprus business partnership in newer areas of engagement such as startup, innovation, digital payments, shipping, shipbuilding, ports, etc. will be identified, talked about and discussed. Tomorrow, of course, is a special day. Prime Minister will receive a ceremonial welcome at the Presidential Palace, after which he will have delegation level talks and press engagement, and thereafter he will depart Cyprus for his next destination. Before that, the President of Cyprus will host a banquet luncheon in honor of Prime Minister, and today in the evening he is hosting a private dinner for Prime Minister. Stay tuned with us for more updates on this very special visit to Cyprus.
Moving on. A massive fire has engulfed the Shahran oil depot in Tehran following Israeli airstrikes as tensions between Israel and Iran escalate. Iran's foreign minister has said that Tehran does not want conflict with Israel to expand but will defend itself. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has warned Iran of unprecedented American military response if attacked. DD India's Abhishek Posra brings us more details in the next report. Take a look.
A massive fire was raging at the Shahran oil depot in Tehran after Israeli airstrikes. Tensions are rising between Israel and Iran, with both sides launching new attacks on each other. Iran's oil ministry says that Israel targeted two major gas fields in southern Bushehr province, including South Pars, the world's largest gas field and Iran's main source of natural gas production. Israel's military claims to have struck key Iranian targets, including the defense ministry headquarters, nuclear infrastructure, and other military sites. The airstrikes have resulted in casualties, with several people killed and hundreds injured in Iran's retaliatory strikes on Israel. The Israeli Defense Forces intercepted multiple Iranian missiles over Tel Aviv and Jerusalem early Sunday. Air raid sirens blared as missiles were shot down over both cities. Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthi rebels have also claimed responsibility for attacks on Israel, stating they coordinated the strikes with Iran. This marks the first time a group aligned with Iran has openly admitted to such joint military action.
The missile force of the Yemeni armed forces carried out a military operation targeting sensitive Israeli targets in Jaffa using several Palestine 2 hypersonic ballistic missiles over the past 24 hours. This operation was coordinated with Iranian military actions against Israel.
After years of indirect conflict, Israel and Iran have now exchanged blows directly. This escalation is raising fears of a prolonged regional war. Israel's strikes, which began Friday, have targeted Iranian nuclear and military sites, killing top Iranian commanders and nuclear scientists. Israel sees Iran's nuclear program as a direct threat, and these attacks aim to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. Iran, however, insists its uranium enrichment is peaceful and denies any nuclear weapons ambitions. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to hit every target of the Ayatollah regime, warning that what Iran has seen so far is just the beginning. Meanwhile, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has vowed that further strikes will lead to an even stronger response. The third day of attacks continues despite international calls for peace, with Iran cancelling recent nuclear talks with the United States. In the US, President Donald Trump said if Iran attacks the United States in any way, it would face the might of the US military at levels never seen before. In a post on his Truth Social platform, Trump said that the United States had nothing to do with an attack on Iran overnight and that it can easily get a deal done between Iran and Israel and end this conflict. The ongoing conflict has disrupted the global oil market and raised concerns about a wider regional war potentially threatening the global economy. Abhishek Bose for DD India.
Iranian government spokesperson Fatima Mojarani revealed that Tehran had been prepared to hold a sixth round of nuclear talks in Oman before Israel's initial strikes on Friday derailed the process. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi accused Israel of deliberately sabotaging the talks, claiming US support for the offensive. Washington, meanwhile, had been pushing for a deal to curb Iran's nuclear program, which Tehran insists is purely civilian, but which Israel considers an existential threat. As the conflict intensifies, flights have been cancelled across Iran. The government says food and shelter will be ensured for the citizens, while metro stations and schools are being prepped as emergency shelters.
We were never eager for war. We made every effort to prevent war. Let me emphasize that. Despite our mistrust, we negotiated and wanted the negotiations to yield results. We were also ready to present our program in the sixth round, but they did not leave room for this matter.
Meanwhile, the Israel's military has warned to all the individuals who are currently or will soon be inside or near military equipment manufacturing factories to evacuate arms-making facilities, signaling possible new strikes.
Urgent warning to all individuals who are currently or will soon be inside or near military equipment manufacturing factories and their supporting facilities in Iran. We respectfully request that you immediately evacuate these areas to protect your life and safety and do not return to these locations until further notice. Your presence near these infrastructure puts your life at risk.
In another update, US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin held a telephonic conversation and discussed escalating tensions in West Asia and ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. Both the leaders agreed on the need to end the Israel-Iran conflict and signaled openness to resuming negotiations on Iran's nuclear programs, with Trump stating that US negotiators were ready to re-engage with their Iranian counterparts. Trump's remarks came as the latest round of US-Iran nuclear talks scheduled for Sunday in Oman has been cancelled. Protests against Trump's immigration raids stretched into their 8th day, with demonstrators clashing across US cities. As armed Marines and National Guard units mobilized, tensions escalated, marked by violent clashes and tear gas in Los Angeles. While on his 79th birthday, Trump celebrated with a costly military parade, drawing both admiration and accusations of authoritarianism.
Protests against Trump's immigration raids entered their 8th day, with demonstrators marching across several cities in the United States. Aerial footage showed smoke in downtown Los Angeles as armed Marines were deployed under a federal mobilization ordered by the president. Organizers of the No Kings protests claimed millions participated in hundreds of events. In response, governors urged calm, with some deploying the National Guard to maintain order.
The significance of being here is that the working class has no borders worldwide. Really, nations are a capitalist invention. As workers, we are brothers to Iraq, Iran, the workers of Israel, of Honduran brothers, of Dominican brothers, because the working class is truly one and we don't have to have borders. We are against Trump's policies and all the racist policies in the world.
Meanwhile, on his 79th birthday, Trump hosted a massive military parade in Washington to mark the US Army's 250th anniversary. The event featured tanks, aircraft, and 7,000 troops, all costing up to $45 million. Trump called the US the hottest country in the world and warned adversaries of total defeat.
Time and again, America's enemies have learned that if you threaten the American people, our soldiers are coming for you. Your defeat will be certain, your demise will be final, and your downfall will be total and complete.
The parade sparked protests across the country, with critics accusing Trump of authoritarianism. In cities like New York, Los Angeles, and Washington, people rallied against what they saw as a display of dictatorial power, while protests in LA turned violent, with tear gas being deployed. Protests also took place in Palm Beach, Florida, and even Texas.
Update familia, the agents are outside. They're here on the corner again of Alondra, across from the Home Depot. Community is coming out strong to show that they're now welcome in our own community. Esta gente ya está aquí afuera, los agentes de inmigración. Nuestra comunidad está aquí afuera. No son bienvenidos en esta comunidad y no en mi distrito, not in my district. Get the hell out of here.
The ongoing protests highlight the growing tension over Trump's policies, with demonstrators marching in support of immigrant rights and democratic values, amid accusations of increasing authoritarianism in the country. Bureau Report, DD India.
US President Donald Trump's administration is considering significantly expanding its travel ban by potentially banning citizens of 36 additional countries from entering the United States, according to an internal State Department cable. Earlier this month, the Republican president signed a proclamation that banned the entry of citizens from 12 countries, saying the move was needed to protect the United States against foreign terrorists and other national security threats. The directive was part of an immigration crackdown Trump launched this year at the start of his second term, which has included the deportation to El Salvador of hundreds of Venezuelans suspected of being the gang members, as well as efforts to deny enrollments of some foreign students from US universities and deport others. In an internal diplomatic cable signed by US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the State Department outlined a dozen concerns about the countries in question and sought corrective actions. A massive manhunt entered a second day on Sunday in Minnesota for the gunman who killed a Democratic state lawmaker while posing as a police officer. The suspect, whom the police identified as Vance Luther Bolter, fled on foot when the officers confronted him at the Brooklyn Park, home of former Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hartman and her husband Mark, who were both killed. The gunman earlier had shot and wounded another Democratic lawmaker, State Senator John Hoffman, and his wife Wethe at their home a few miles away. Minnesota U.S. Senator has said that authorities believe the suspect is still in the Midwest, adding that an alert had been put out in neighboring South Dakota. According to the officials, the suspect left behind a vehicle outside Hartman's house in suburban Minneapolis that resembled a police SUV, including flashing lights, and contained a manifesto and a target list of other politicians and institutions. Now, French President Emmanuel Macron arrived in Greenland to express his disagreement with Donald Trump's intention to annex Greenland, stating that this is not what is done between allies. Macron stated that he has come to express the solidarity of France and the European Union for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Greenland.
I don't think that's something to be done between allies. It is important to show that Denmark and Europe are committed to this territory, which has very high strategic stakes and whose territorial integrity must be respected.
Now, the group of 7 leaders gather in Canadian Rockies starting on Sunday amid growing splits with the United States over foreign policy and trade, with host Canada striving to avoid clashes with President Donald Trump. While Prime Minister Mark Carney says his priorities are strengthening peace and security, building critical mineral supply chain and creating jobs, issues such as US tariffs and the conflicts in the Middle East and Ukraine are expected to feature heavily. The summit will take place in Mountain Resort of Canada, which is some 90 kilometers west of Calgary. The last time Canada played host in 2018, Donald Trump left the summit, instructing the US delegation to withdraw its approval of the final communique. Now, Carney's office declined to comment on how the Israeli strikes would affect the summit. And now let's take a look at how weather is shaping conditions around the world. Well, from rains in New Delhi to sunshine in Germany, floods in South Africa and storms in China, our next report gets you all the detail. Take a look.
From stormy skies in Delhi to sun-drenched parks in Germany and devastating floods in South Africa, the weather is telling different stories around the world. Here is the latest from the global weather front. Delhi NCR residents woke up to heavy rain, thunderstorms and strong winds on Sunday morning. The downpour brought much-needed relief from the prolonged heat wave across Delhi and neighboring areas including Noida. Delhi and the adjoining regions have been experiencing extreme heat wave conditions for the last few days. After 4 consecutive days of heat wave conditions in parts of the national capital, Delhi witnessed a slight dip in temperatures. In contrast, Germany is soaking in the joys of summer. With temperatures climbing above 30 degrees Celsius, people are escaping the indoors and heading straight to parks, lakes and outdoor cafes. From cycling to sunbathing by the river, families and friends made the most of the sunshine. In stark contrast, tragedy struck South Africa's Eastern Cape province, where relentless floods have claimed at least 78 lives. In Mathatha, a local shelter has become a refuge for many affected families. The recovery efforts continue as communities band together to support one another in the aftermath of nature's fury. Meanwhile, Typhoon Wuteep struck China's Guangdong province over the weekend, flooding ports and coastal towns after making landfall on Hainan Island. Wutip, the Cantonese word for butterfly, formed over the South China Sea this week and intensified into a tropical storm. It marked the fifth latest start of the Pacific tropical cyclone season in recent times. Beaches and coastal shops were closed on southern China, with warning tapes and notice boards, and fishing boats were ordered to return to port for shelter. Prince Yadav's report for DD India.
Now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world in brief. Activist group Republic staged a protest along the processional route during Trooping the Colour, the annual celebration of the British sovereign's official birthday. As King Charles III and members of the royal family paraded down the mall with troops and cavalry, the protesters loudly chanted, "Not my king," making their anti-monarchy stance know how during the high-profile event. Former Argentine President Cristina Fernandez has petitioned a lower court to allow her to serve a sentence for corruption under house arrest. Her lawyer argued for house arrest due to security concerns following an assassination attempt in September 2022. In a dramatic move, a military helicopter in Ecuador showered hundreds of fake dollar bills over the violence-stricken city. Each bill carried a government hotline number urging the residents to report criminals. The unusual tactic is part of a broader campaign to combat soaring gang violence and restore public trust in law enforcement. The 27th Shanghai International Film Festival kicked off with a grand opening ceremony, attracting global stars and setting a new record with 3,900 film submissions from 119 countries. This year's event is buzzing with anticipation, with a dazzling lineup of 11 world premieres in the main competition alone. Time to take a short break, but still to come on the other side. Up next, we'll get you latest details on Ahmedabad plane crash from Ground Zero. And the first batch of pilgrims flagged off on Sunday for Kailash Mansarovar Yatra.
Open your mind to a whole new world. Explore mystic wonders of nature in the forests.
तो मुझे देख के आपको लग रहा है कि मुझे इजी वाला देना चाहिए.
Uncover secrets hidden deep inside the earth.
And I'd always heard of this ancient Shiv Mandir which is inside a cave.
Experience the rich cultural legacy.
मुझे बताइए इस डांस फॉर्म के बारे में, इस आर्ट फॉर्म के बारे में.
Experience the blend of vibrant warmth and stunning creations.
It fits perfectly. Thank you.
Jharkhand. Let it become a part of you. Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India NewsHour. Moving on now. Well, the Embassy of India in Iran has issued an advisory on Sunday saying all Indian nationals and persons of Indian origin in Iran are required to remain in touch with the embassy and avoid all unnecessary movements. The advisory was issued in view of the current situation in Iran. Taking to social media platform X, the Indian Embassy issued hotline numbers for Indian nationals to contact in case of emergency. All Indian nationals and persons of Indian origin have been asked to follow Embassy's social media pages for latest updates. Now, just days after Air India's Ahmedabad to London flight crashed with 242 people aboard, DNA testing has confirmed the identities of over 60 victims. Families across Gujarat continue last rites as investigators probe the cause. A student's video of the crash is now a key clue. Meanwhile, authorities are streamlining support to help grieving families navigate the tragic aftermath. DD India's Mihir Maikuri has more. Take a look.
Days after Air India's Ahmedabad to London flight carrying 242 passengers and crew crashed shortly after takeoff, Rescue teams have recovered remains, with DNA testing confirming the identities of over 60 victims. Over 25 bodies have been handed over to their families. Among the deceased is former Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani. Authorities confirmed his death through DNA analysis of remains recovered from the crash site.
हमारे नेता श्री विजय भाई रूपानी जी का एयर इंडिया अहमदाबाद गेटविक की फ्लाइट के क्रैश में दुखद अवसान हुआ है। आज सुबह करीबन 11:10 को उनका डीएनए मैच हुआ है।
His final rites will be held in Rajkot, where preparations are underway to honor the late leader.
कल 11:30 के आसपास आदरणीय ऋषभ भाई और परिवारजन अंजलि बहन सब सिविल हॉस्पिटल से उनके पार्थिव शरीर को स्वीकार करेंगे और 2 बजे के आसपास ये राजकोट पहुंचेंगे और साथ में उनको राजकीय सम्मान के साथ ये सब होगा। राजकीय सम्मान के साथ उनको विदा करने का कार्यक्रम पार्टी ने भी बनाया है, सरकार ने भी बनाया।
In Vadodara, the family of another victim, Kalpana Prajapati, performed her last rites after her remains were returned to her hometown. To spare grieving families from additional distress, the Gujarat State Administration has arranged for death certificates to be issued directly at hospitals, eliminating the need for visits to multiple government offices. Back at the crash site, the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau continues recovery and analysis efforts. Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister, Dr. P.K. Mishra, visited the site and was briefed on developments by the Director General of the AAIB. Boeing officials also visited the crash site on Sunday. The crash has also left deep psychological scars. Aryan Asari, a 12th standard student, captured the horrifying moment the aircraft lost control and crashed in a massive fireball. His video is now a vital clue for investigators trying to unravel what went wrong.
The plane was passing from very close, so I thought of shooting a video so I could show it to my friends. The plane went downwards and I thought it was going to land as the airport was nearby. But when it went down, flames started coming up and we saw that it had exploded. I was scared. I showed the video to my sister. I also told my father about it.
As probes intensify and families begin the painful journey of mourning, the nation watches with a mix of grief and urgency. Mihir Makhuri for DD India.
Now, India's Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister, Dr. P.K. Mishra, visited the site of the tragic airplane crash in Ahmedabad on Sunday, where he was briefed on the incident by the Director General of the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau. Later in the day, Dr. Mishra also visited the Forensic Science Laboratory in Gandhinagar, where DNA testing is being conducted to identify the victims of the crash.
At the Directorate of Forensic Sciences Lab here at Gandhinagar in Gujarat, wherein the DNA samples of the people who lost their lives in the fatal airplane crash in Ahmedabad is being tested. Number of stages of this DNA testing is taking place, be it the quantification, the genetic isolation, PCR, and number of stages the DNA samples go from lab to lab, so to ensure that the DNA testing happens with extreme precision, extreme accuracy, and obviously the FSL team is on its toes, working continuously 24/7 to match the DNA profiles of the victims with the people, with their relatives. And what we also get to understand at the moment is that a number of DNA samples have already been matched with the relatives, and also number of samples have been collected from the crash site and have been carefully brought here, after which their sampling is being done. We also get to understand that because of the extreme impact heat and flames. There is a lot of destruction to the bodies. The bodies are fragmented, they are severely charred, which has resulted in the complexity of the DNA testing. But at this lab, the professionals are working with high accuracy and extreme professionalism to ensure that the bodies, the mortal remains of the people who lost life in this tragic airplane crash is received by their relatives as soon as possible. With camera person Lakshman, this is Meghna De for DD India from Gandhinagar, Gujarat.
Now, the first batch of pilgrims was flagged off on Sunday from Ghaziabad for Kailash Mansarovar Yatra that has resumed after a hiatus of 5 years. A total of 750 pilgrims have been selected for Yatra this year, including 2 licensing officers per batch. The flag-off ceremony took place at the Kailash Mansarovar Bhavan in Indirapuram, where UP Tourism and Culture Minister Jaiveer Singh launched the pilgrimage. Apart from the pilgrims, the first batch will also have 2 licensing officers. Initially, 46 registrations were received, but some people could not participate due to health issues, an official statement said. The state government is providing financial assistance of 1 lakh rupees to each of the residents of the state undertaking the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra. Licensing officers play a crucial role in facilitating the Yatra, ensuring the well-being and safety of the pilgrims. And that's all for this edition. India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download it right now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Deepika, and from all of us here in New Delhi, thank you so much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.